My beloved child, come close, and let your breathing slow for just a moment before we begin. What you are about to feel is not a story that starts with a scene, but a story that starts with a stirring, the kind that moves through the chest before it ever reaches the lips. Today is not an ordinary day for your soulmate, though from the outside, nothing about the morning would seem unusual. The light comes through the window the same way it always does. The world outside goes on turning as if nothing has shifted. But something has shifted, quietly, in the space where truth has been resting for years, waiting for the courage to finally rise. You have felt this before, haven't you? That strange, wordless sensation that someone you love is holding something back, not out of malice, but out of fear, or protection, or an old wound that never fully closed. You have felt the pause before a sentence that never finishes, the half-smile that hides more than it reveals, the way silence can sit in a room like a third presence, neither welcomed nor asked to leave. Today, that silence begins to loosen its grip. Don't skip, because what unfolds in the next few minutes will show you something about waiting, about love, and about the quiet architecture of secrets that you may recognize in your own life, even if you cannot yet name it. In the earliest hours of the morning, before the sun has fully claimed the sky, your soulmate wakes with a feeling they cannot immediately explain. It is not dread, not exactly, though it carries some of dread's weight. It is more like the sensation of standing at the edge of a decision that has been circling for a long, long time, finally settling close enough to touch. They lie still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, feeling the shape of a truth they have kept folded away, tucked beneath years of careful smiles and gentle deflections. You may wonder what could possibly take so long to say. My beloved child, some truths are not delayed because they are small. They are delayed because they are enormous, because the person holding them has measured, again and again, what it might cost to release them into the light. Your soulmate has done this measuring more times than you know. Some mornings they almost spoke. Some nights they almost broke the silence. And every time, something pulled them back, some fear that saying it aloud would change the way you see them forever. Stay till the end, because the reason behind this hesitation is more tender than you might expect, and it says less about doubt in you, and more about the fragile way the heart tries to protect what it loves most. As your soulmate rises from bed, there is a heaviness in their limbs that has nothing to do with tiredness. It is the heaviness of carrying something invisible, something that has no physical weight but presses anyway, the way a memory can press against the ribs long after the moment itself has passed. They move through the small rituals of morning almost mechanically, brushing hands over familiar surfaces, staring for a beat too long at their own reflection, searching their own eyes for permission they haven't yet given themselves. There is a particular kind of loneliness in holding a secret meant for someone else. It isolates you even in company, even in love, because a part of you is always standing slightly apart, translating your own words, filtering what can be said from what still must remain hidden. Your soulmate knows this loneliness intimately. They have lived inside it for years, smiling through it, loving you through it, and yet always feeling that one door in their heart remained locked, even to you. Something important is waiting for you, because today, for reasons that will only become clear as the hours pass, that locked door begins, ever so slightly, to open. By mid-morning, your soulmate finds themselves returning again and again to an old memory, one they thought had been quieted long ago. Memory has a strange gravity. It pulls us back not when we expect it, but when we are finally ready to face what it holds. This memory is not one they can share yet, not even with you, not even inside their own thoughts without flinching slightly. But it circles closer today than it has in a long time, and each time it circles, it loosens another thread of the careful knot they have tied around the truth. You may sense, if you have ever loved someone who was hiding something, that there is a difference between a secret kept out of coldness and a secret kept out of love. The first isolates two people from each other. The second, strangely, can deepen a bond even while it strains it, because underneath the silence is always a decision, made again and again, to protect the relationship rather than risk it. Your soulmate's silence has always been the second kind. It has cost them more than you know. As the late morning light spreads gently across whatever space your soulmate occupies, they pause in the middle of an ordinary task, and their hands go still. In that stillness, something inside them cracks, not violently, but the way ice cracks in early spring, a sound so quiet it could be missed if you weren't listening closely. It is the sound of a decision beginning to form, the sound of years of hesitation finally meeting their limit. Don't skip, because this crack, this small internal fracture, is the very beginning of everything that follows today, and if you look closely enough into your own life, you may recognize a moment just like it, a moment where holding on became harder than letting go. As the day tips toward afternoon, your soulmate carries this fractured stillness with them into the rest of their responsibilities, moving through obligations and routines with a strange double consciousness. Part of them is here, present, functioning, saying the necessary words to the necessary people. But another part of them has slipped sideways into reflection, replaying, without meaning to, every moment across the years when they almost told you the truth and did not. There was a night, long ago, when the words rose all the way to the surface, close enough to taste, and still they swallowed them back down. There was an afternoon, quieter and more ordinary than most, when you asked an innocent question that brushed dangerously close to the hidden truth, and your soulmate deflected with practiced ease, hating themselves a little for how smoothly the deflection came. There have been so many of these moments, scattered like stones across the years, each one small, each one seemingly harmless in isolation, but together forming a long and heavy path that led, step by step, to today. Stay till the end, because you will come to understand that today is not a sudden decision at all, but the final step of a path that has been walking itself into existence for a very long time. In the quiet hours of the afternoon, your soulmate allows themselves, perhaps for the first time in years, to sit fully inside the discomfort of the secret rather than rushing to distract themselves from it. This is harder than it sounds. Most of us build entire lives around avoiding the discomfort of our own withheld truths. We fill our days with noise and small tasks precisely so we never have to sit still long enough to feel the weight we are carrying. But today, your soulmate does not run. They sit with it, and in sitting with it, something begins to shift. You may have experienced this yourself, my beloved child, this strange alchemy that happens when we finally stop avoiding a feeling and instead let it exist fully within us. The feeling does not disappear, not immediately, but it becomes less monstrous. It becomes something we can look at directly, rather than something that only exists in the corner of our eye, always threatening, always looming. Your soulmate, sitting quietly with their secret this afternoon, begins to see it not as an enemy to be managed, but as a truth waiting, patiently, for its moment. Something important is waiting for you, because the way your soulmate chooses to face this feeling today will determine everything that happens in the hours ahead, and the courage required for this facing is larger than you might imagine. As the afternoon deepens, your soulmate finds themselves thinking not of the secret itself, but of you. Not of what the secret is, but of who you have been to them across the years that they have carried it. They think of your patience, even when you sensed something unspoken and chose, out of respect, not to push. They think of the quiet ways you have shown up for them, the small kindnesses that asked nothing in return, the steadiness of your presence even during the moments when their own heart felt least steady. This reflection does something unexpected. Instead of increasing the fear of finally speaking, it begins, slowly, to soften it. Because underneath every fear of telling the truth is usually a fear of losing the person we are telling it to. And as your soulmate remembers, piece by piece, the depth and steadiness of your love, a small, fragile hope begins to grow alongside the fear. Perhaps, they begin to think, this love is strong enough to hold what has been hidden. Perhaps it always was. Don't skip, because the tension between fear and hope that builds inside your soulmate this afternoon is the very engine that will carry them, hour by hour, toward the moment they finally speak, and understanding this tension will help you understand everything that follows. As afternoon light begins its slow amber turn toward evening, your soulmate steps outside, if only for a few minutes, needing the wider sky to hold the size of what they are feeling. There is something about open air that makes internal decisions feel more possible, as though the largeness of the world outside gives us permission to be large within it too. Standing there, breathing slowly, your soulmate feels the fractured stillness from this morning begin to organize itself into something more like resolve. They are not ready yet. Resolve rarely arrives all at once, it arrives in increments, the way courage always does. But something in them has tipped, quietly, from maybe someday to maybe today, and that shift, small as it seems, is enormous. It is the shift between a secret that sleeps and a secret that stirs, and once a secret stirs this deeply, it rarely goes back to sleep. Stay till the end, because what happened next would change everything they wanted to say, reshaping not just the words themselves but the very courage required to speak them. As evening approaches, your soulmate returns to the quiet of their own thoughts once more, but this time the quality of the reflection has changed. Where the morning brought fracture and the afternoon brought sitting with, the evening brings something closer to clarity. Clarity does not mean certainty. It does not mean the fear has vanished or that the path ahead feels smooth. But clarity means that your soulmate, for the first time in longer than they can remember, can see the shape of what needs to happen next, even if they cannot yet see every detail of how. There is a particular kind of peace that comes not from resolving a fear, but from finally deciding to stop running from it. Your soulmate begins to feel the edges of that peace now, faint but real, like the first cool breath of evening air after a long, warm day. They are not at ease. But they are, perhaps for the first time in years, aligned with themselves, no longer split between the part that wants to speak and the part that wants to hide. Something important is waiting for you, because this alignment, this quiet gathering of the self into one unified intention, is the final ingredient your soulmate needs before they can finally move toward the truth they have held for so long. In the softening light of early evening, your soulmate finds themselves returning, almost involuntarily, to gratitude. This may seem strange, given the weight of what still remains unspoken, but gratitude and vulnerability often travel together, each one making room for the other. Your soulmate feels gratitude for the years you have shared, even the years shadowed by this hidden thing. They feel gratitude for the version of themselves that survived long enough to reach this evening, this threshold, this quiet turning point. And they feel, most of all, gratitude for you, for your presence, your patience, and the love that has waited, without ever fully realizing it was waiting, for this exact moment to arrive. Gratitude has a way of loosening the final knots of fear. It reminds us that even in uncertainty, we are not without foundation. Your soulmate, sitting inside this gratitude as the sky deepens toward dusk, feels something settle within them, a kind of quiet permission. Not permission to know exactly what to say, but permission to begin trying to say it. Don't skip, because the bridge between gratitude and courage is one of the most important bridges a heart can cross, and your soulmate is crossing it right now, step by uncertain step, as the evening light continues to fade. As true evening settles in, your soulmate begins, almost without noticing, to rehearse. Not the exact words yet, not fully, but the feeling behind the words, the tone they hope to hold on to no matter how the conversation unfolds. They imagine your face, the particular way your expression shifts when you sense something important is coming. They imagine the pause that might follow whatever they finally say, the silence that could hold anything, worry, confusion, tenderness, or perhaps, most hoped for of all, understanding. This rehearsal is not about scripting a performance. It is about your soulmate trying, gently, to hold themselves steady enough to walk through a door they have avoided for years. There is trembling in this rehearsal, yes, but there is also something unmistakably brave. Bravery, after all, rarely looks like fearlessness. More often, it looks exactly like this: shaking hands, an uncertain heart, and a decision to move forward anyway. Stay till the end, because the shape of what your soulmate rehearses tonight will echo directly into the words they finally begin to speak, and you will feel, more than understand, how close they are getting to the truth. As evening deepens further into the quiet hush before night, your soulmate feels the last remnants of resistance beginning to fall away. This does not happen all at once, in one grand cinematic instant. It happens the way tides turn, slowly, and then suddenly all at once you look up and realize the whole shoreline has changed. Where this morning there was fracture, and this afternoon there was sitting with, and early evening brought clarity and gratitude, now, as true dusk settles in, there is simply the quiet, steady hum of intention. Your soulmate knows, in the marrow of themselves, that tonight is the night. There is no single dramatic trigger for this knowing. It is not one thought, one memory, one moment that tips the scale entirely on its own. It is the accumulation of the entire day, morning fracture, afternoon reflection, evening clarity, all converging now into a single quiet certainty: the truth can no longer stay where it has been hiding. It is time. Something important is waiting for you, because what your soulmate has decided in this quiet hour will unfold, fully, only once night has fully arrived, and every part of today has been leading toward this exact threshold. As night begins to fall in earnest, your soulmate feels a stillness unlike any stillness from earlier in the day. This is not the frozen stillness of avoidance, nor the heavy stillness of a secret pressing down. It is the poised stillness of someone standing at the very edge of a threshold, gathering themselves before stepping through. You may know this stillness yourself, my beloved child, the particular quiet that arrives just before we do something that matters, something that cannot be undone once it is spoken. In this stillness, your soulmate allows themselves to remember, one final time, why they kept this truth hidden for so long. Not to relive the fear, but to honor it, to acknowledge the part of themselves that tried, in its own imperfect way, to protect what mattered most. That protective instinct was never cruelty. It was love, wearing the disguise of silence, doing the only thing it knew how to do to keep you both safe from a truth it feared might hurt too much. Don't skip, because understanding the tenderness beneath the silence changes everything about how you will receive what comes next, and your soulmate needs you to understand this more than anything else tonight. As the night deepens and the world around your soulmate grows quiet, they finally allow the truth to rise fully to the surface, no longer pushed down, no longer deflected, no longer hidden behind practiced smiles. It rises the way something long submerged finally rises to breathe, gasping slightly at the air, unfamiliar after so long beneath the surface. Your soulmate feels this rising in their chest, in their throat, in the trembling of their hands as they finally prepare to bring it into the light. They think of you now, fully, completely, without distraction. They think of every year this secret has stood quietly between you, not as a wall, but as a thin veil, one that softened certain moments, complicated certain conversations, and asked, silently, for patience it could not yet explain. Tonight, that veil is finally ready to be lifted, not because the fear has vanished, but because the love has grown large enough to carry the fear alongside it. Stay till the end, because the very last part of tonight will bring you closer than ever before to hearing, at last, the truth your soulmate has waited years to say. In the deep hush of night, your soulmate sits quietly, gathering themselves one final time. They take a slow breath, the kind that reaches all the way down, the kind we take only when we are about to do something that matters more than almost anything else we have ever done. Their hands, though still trembling faintly, feel steadier now than they have in years. Something in them has crossed over from hesitation into readiness, and that crossing, quiet as it is, changes everything. They begin, softly, to shape the first words in their mind, the opening they have rehearsed and abandoned and rehearsed again throughout the long hours of this day. They think of your name. They think of the particular way you listen, fully, generously, without rushing them. And slowly, carefully, they begin to open their mouth to finally say the words they have carried, silently, faithfully, and painfully, for so many years. There is something I have needed to tell you for a very long time, your soulmate begins, voice trembling but steady enough to continue, and I think, if you'll let me, tonight might finally be the night I find the courage to say it all. Something important is waiting for you, my beloved child, because the truth your soulmate is about to share carries the weight of every year they carried it alone, and the courage it took to finally reach this moment is a gift meant only for you.